Inspired by 40s aviation, it doesn't need more to convince me to grab my attention. And so when Yema announced their new Flygraf Pilot as a watch inspired by 40s aviation, a tool watch, I said yes, but then followed a surprise. Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim and our topic today is the Yema Flygraf Pilot, and I was a bit nervous to tell you the truth. Because my last review of the Yema watch didn't go so well. I found the piece like that, and sometimes manufacturers are not so happy and then they're a bit reluctant to send you the next watch. And in our case here, two watches arrived, and at first glance I found them a bit underwhelming, a bit too subtle, a bit too subdued, but I put one on the wrist, on the metal bracelet. I put it on the wrist and then it stayed there for 10 days straight, which is relatively rare because they are surrounded here by competitors. But I had the watch on the wrist for 10 days and was very happy about it. And then you have to ask yourself, what is it really? And then I realized first, this is not a tool watch. This is not the full-blown pilot tool watch. I mean, think about IWC with this great legibility, bold look, bold indices, the triangle, everything. And here I had something very subtle on the wrist, and then I realized that the subtleness is super well executed. You found all this, or you find all these little details on the dial, the little dots, the rather small hands, and everything tiny was exquisite, was really the polishing job, really amazing. And so the real qualities I found more on the microscopic level when the watch was close to me. For example, at the desk working, and then the watch is there very close to your eyes, and you realize, wow, this is pretty handsome thing. And the next surprise was the case. I found the case in the first second a bit brutalistic, if you know what I mean, so a bit drastic with all these edges, boxy form. But then I realized on the wrist it was very good from the measurements, but also from these beveled facets, these edges. They gave a certain look, very pleasant for my eyes, and yeah, very organic together with a bracelet. And so after all, I was super happy during these 10 days with that particular watch. But okay, now let's go into the light box. Let's check them out. And here we are with our watches. I have two of them, the black dial and the olive or green or khaki dial here. These are the colors available, and I ordered them on the metal strap, on the metal bracelet, excuse me, and on the leather strap so that we can see both variations. And now let's begin with the measurements and the specifications. So we have here a case diameter of 38.5 millimeters, a length lug to lug of 46, and a height of 11.5 millimeters including the crystal, and a lug width here of 19. Then sapphire crystals, screw-down crown, and the watch is waterproof up to 100 meters. Inside we have the Celita SW, so this means 28,800 beats, power reserve of 38 hours, automatic movement. And the price for this watch here on metal is 990 euros and on leather 890 euros. And to translate this into US dollars, around 1,100 and 1,200. Okay, let's begin with the details here. We have a very interesting dial. I was a bit, in the first second, a bit underwhelmed by this dial especially because it's so subtle, but then I found quite some beauty in it. You may note that everything is rather subtle and small. So the Yema logo, the Flygraf, and the little aircraft under it, everything very subtle and small. Nothing very dominant, but very well balanced. The legibility sometimes is not super great. Let me find you an example like this here. I mean, you can read the time, but it's not super great. But overall, it's just interesting to look at, I must say. The lume, by the way, is not spectacular. The dots are relatively small. The lume on the hands works okay. Yeah, pretty normal, to tell you the truth. And the longer you look at it, the more details you find, and you note that everything is very well applied, very well executed, and in a way special. So with these round dots as indices, normally we find them in a large form on the dial, then the placement of the numerals. So everything is, yeah, it's a rather exquisite look, I must say. And now let's speak about the case. Also very interesting and pretty unique with this form here. A lot of beveled edges, a lot of facets, everything is high polished. Only the bezel has a radial brushing. Sapphire crystal, by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned that, sapphire crystal. And so a lot of angles, and I especially like the crown here because it's so, I don't know how to call it, it's a pleasant feeling to touch it in a way. It's very, very nice. It's rounded and in my opinion has a very good size to it. Here you have the case back with the Yema logo and some information on it. There you go. Luck with 19mm, of course, is always a bit of a pain, but I have to give them that the proportions here are well chosen in my eyes. Really, really nice. And here you see especially the effect of that beveled lug. It tries to vanish when you change the angle and gives the watch an entirely different look. And so very, very interesting thing, really. Very interesting thing. Okay. Now let's debate the bracelet, because this is a bit of a star of this ensemble in my eyes. I'm not always a fan of metal bracelet, but I must say this is just exquisite, that thing. It's relatively lightweight. It's not super stiff, as you can see, but it's extremely comfortable and extremely handsome, I find. Because again, you have a nice mixture of brushing and high polishing, and I find it stylistically perfectly suitable for that watch. Really, really, really nice. Again, here the effect that the lug is vanishing due to a reflection. So it's a very interesting look. And I also like the clasp. Works fine. There you go. There is the clasp. Everything good. Very neat, very clean on the wrist. The only little downside is that you have pins here. I mean, it's not a real downside. People use them since decades and they work, and I altered it. Works fine. But to be honest, I prefer screws. But again, works fine. Okay, now let's operate the watch. As said, screw down crown. And as said, again, it's a very nice experience to handle that crown here. And then the cylinder has a hand winding function. And then you have one position, because this is the no date version. So one position, and then you set the time. That's all. Feels very good. Feels very precise, not flimsy at all, and so I'm very happy with that. And here it is on the wrist, 38.5mm watch on a 17cm wrist. Neat look. I'm wearing it a bit loose, which I really enjoy here in this case. It depends really on the bracelet. Sometimes I prefer bracelets more stiff and tight, but here it is really comfortable the way I'm wearing it right now. And here it is on the strap. And I must say, high quality strap, very comfortable, good looking, very healthy, so to speak, surface here. Very nice look. But in this case, I have to admit I don't like it here on that, especially with that matching tone. Here I enjoy the metal bracelet a bit more. Okay, welcome back. I hope you found this interesting. This was the review, and now allow me a little hint on my own behalf. Caseback the online shop that keeps everything here independent, that makes it possible that I can deliver independent content, that makes it possible that I can tell you this watch is something like that without consequence. And so in case you need a fine leather strap or a belt or a wallet, visit caseback Not a donation, there you really get something for your money. Okay, and that's all for this episode. Thank you very much, and until next time.